And I just want to make a quick video on this to see if anyone's ever come across something like this, or be able to explain how something like this happens. So we had this call to come out, do some repairs here on this site. It's a fairly new build, Mircom FX 2000 system. I think the building's only 2 or 3 years old. And we new customer, so we did the first annual inspection, and the guys found a couple of issues with labeling, and I think one of the pull stations didn't have a general alarm switch in it. It's a retirement home, so there's general alarm switches on every pull station. So I came out to take the program over of the system and then do those couple repairs, and I came across something really weird. So this system has about 6 loops here, and loop 4 over here was what had the weird stuff going on. Basically, it had the devices on it that I needed to correct, and so when I pulled the program off, I'll show you. I'll go back to the older version. Let's see here. So if you go over here, building C1, loop 4, there it is. So if you look here, if you're not familiar with Mircom, here's where, once you get into your loop, this is where you add in devices. So for instance, you can see here, device photo detector, so that's a smoke, it's an alarm input. And then over here is where you program your tagline. So you type in here the location and what the device is, so when it triggers, you can see where it is on your fire alarm system. And if you look at this loop, what they did, I don't know how you would get that. You can just see it's just a bunch of just completely random stuff. Like for instance, like look at that. Like that's what the displays like on the main screen, and then so it's just a bunch of weird stuff. So the reason this never got caught on any sort of inspection or VI is that what they did is down here you go to messages. So this is where you program your correlations. This is where you program your correlations. So you add your device, you label it, and then this is what you where you tell it what to do basically. So when this device goes off an alarm, it triggers, you know, all these signal outputs, all these relays, all your LEDs. And then what they did is they programmed these custom messages here for each annunciator. You can see this building has six annunciators. So they program the proper location to display on the annunciators. So the reason this crap never got caught is because you would only display down here on this panel, which is in this big generator, big giant generator here, generator, electrical, mechanical room, and none of the guys really go down here to do the inspection because you have your amps and batteries and all your main wiring down here, but all the audio control is at the annunciator in the main lobby. So you can see it was displaying properly at that annunciator, so you'd be like, okay, that looks like the proper device. But then if you were down here, you'd be like, what the hell is that? That doesn't make any sense. So for one, I don't even know how that would happen. I can't see someone purposely doing that. So maybe I'm just curious if anyone who maybe has a lot of knowledge of Mircom stuff or has come across this in the past has an explanation as to why. Because then if you go, let's see, farther down, like these loops here, they programmed it correctly because you just label it here. You don't need these custom messages. These are basically, from my understanding anyway, I've never actually used them, but if you want to say, you know, display something differently at a annunciator somewhere else in the building, for each device, I guess, like if you wanted, you know, on your main panel it says second floor by bar area smoke. If you wanted that for some reason, maybe it's in another building, you know, you just want to say it's in building B, second floor, or something like that, you can create these custom messages. So it's definitely a pretty big programming blunder and huge miss on some verification, but that nobody wrote this up. But I'm just curious if anyone out there knows how this would happen, like how you just get all this random crap. So I've just spent the last maybe hour and a half going through and correcting it all. On this version, you can see we go to loop 4 and we've got that all corrected, and none of these messages. I just deleted all those because it's pointless to have that. I honestly thought when I first pulled it off that something screwed up in the process of downloading the configuration out of the panel, but that's not the case, because here I'll just pull loop 4 off and we'll show you the display. So I pulled loop 4 out and we'll start getting a bunch of troubles. So for instance right there, that's a smoke detector, but it's labeled randomly. So it wasn't some weird thing that happened pulling the program off, like transferring it from the panel to my laptop. It literally was programmed like this. So yeah, that's pretty weird. I mean, if anyone actually watches this and knows what may or may not have happened, be interesting to know. Also, another big blunder that they did. So here's your RS-485 for your annunciators, and they just came out and T-tapped it all. What's going on now? So here's the auxiliary power for the annunciators and the RS-485. And pretty sure it's, maybe I'll try and put a picture up. It's like the first page of the annunciators, like installation instructions. It says right on it, no T-tapping or star wiring allowed for the RS-485, because each annunciator has an RS-485 in and out to the next annunciator. I don't see how it could have possibly been easier to run every single wire back to this panel instead of just going to one annunciator and then out of that annunciator to the next one and so on and so forth, and then you put your end of line for the RS-485 in the last annunciator. This one, they just T-tapped it all and they put the end of line in the main annunciator at the front door. So I guess it's good to know that it still works when you hook it up like this, but I can't imagine it's working totally proper. It just shows that that's how good RS-485 is, I guess, that you can hook it up completely incorrectly and still make it work. But you can see how this panel's wired too, that, you know, it's definitely a hack job. Look at this, actually, while I'm sending the new updated version in, I found the annunciator manual just sitting on top of the panel. You go to page 10 here, wiring instructions. So this is what each one looks like. So you have your RS-485 input coming from your panel, and then boom, output to the next panel. Same thing too, they recommend twisted shielded pair, which out here in Canada anyway, I think I've seen that maybe once or twice. Everyone never runs the proper wire. I mean, it does still work fine with your just 18 gauge solid copper fire alarm wire. It makes it super easy to hook up an annunciator. Just run one 18.5 cable, but obviously it's going to work better with the proper wire. And then it's the same with the power too. I feel like T-tapping the power isn't as big a deal, but it does have the input and output, so why not use it? It says right here too, that's what I was talking about. No star wiring or T-tapping allowed. So again, it's good to know that at least it works if you hook it up like that. But other thing too, like they got sync modules just screwed right into the panel. I mean, I guess that works. Here's the amp wiring. I mean, I've seen worse, I guess. This thing is like apparently, I don't remember the model number for it, but apparently it is programmed by Mircom, and it can give out custom messages. I don't know what they are here. I've never tested it, but there's the other set of amps there. And then the only other thing that kind of irks me about this is, look at this battery box. Why did they do it like that? Because these batteries are for this panel. So they ran wire up here along this trough, ran like a 2-inch conduit, and then mounted it off center just for the batteries. Why not just put it under the panel? That would have been nice and square. And I don't know, I just don't get it. But I guess nobody really cares. Nobody's really looking at it other than me. But anyway, if you guys have ever come across that weird labeling stuff and know how that's possible, I don't think it was a malicious thing. I don't see somebody just typing gibberish and programming your fire alarm like that. Clearly something screwed up. I mean, it doesn't surprise me if they're looking at this install that the programming was screwed up, but I just thought it was an interesting one.